The thought of a child going missing is scary. Sometimes we see the billboards or the social media posts, but don't always give it a second thought. But one child missing is one too many. The Texas Center for the Missing says that in 2020, there were more than 37,000 reports of children missing in our state. That's enough to fill Ratliff Stadium more than 2 times. Experts say these cases may not be something we talk about every day, but it's an issue we should all be familiar with.
It's a big issue, but what is interesting about it is that it really can be a situation where one person can make a difference, possibly a life and death difference when they open their eyes and open their ears and look and see. It's basically see something, say something.
Some cases never get an answer, but the CEO of the Texas Center for the Missing says that kids are usually found.
98% of missing children are located, thank goodness, safe and alive. And unfortunately, there are children that are located deceased, and then even more unfortunately, children that are never located.
But why do children go missing?
Long ago, we all had that sort of picture of a guy in a raincoat sitting on a park bench waiting for kids to come by. And that was certainly the reality at that time.
We learn about stranger danger growing up, but that's not the reason for most child disappearances. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children says endangered runaways are about 91% of their cases.
You really have to look at the circumstances that lead to their disappearance. At the National Center, one of the largest populations of children who go missing are our runaway category, children who've run away from or left a safe environment, or what we perceive as a safe environment.
Family abductions make up nearly 5% of their cases. Non-family abductions are under 1%. The center includes critically missing young adults as part of their caseload at 3%, and other reasons make up the rest.
If you see something that seems odd, say something. We often remind the public that missing children are often missing in plain sight. They may be living down the street from someone. They may have been abducted from family members. However, a child went missing, we're likely to encounter missing children in our daily lives, and that's why it's important to be aware.
At best, children run away and come back home. At worst, the children could be hurt, traumatized, trafficked, or killed.
I knew she was vulnerable, and when you're vulnerable, you become an easy target.
As we explore the reasons children go missing, we also speak with a woman whose foster child went missing.
You really have to look at the circumstances that lead to their disappearance. At the National Center, one of the largest populations of children who go missing are our runaway category, children who've run away from or left a safe environment, or what we perceive as a safe environment.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children says 91% of their cases across the U.S. involved endangered runaways. These kids are listed as endangered because even if they left on their own, they still face risks.
More than likely, they're going to have experienced some kind of trauma when they were on their own. The trauma of not knowing if they're going to get meal that day, not knowing if they're going to have shelter that night, high risk of being taken advantage of, whether financially taken advantage of, physically or sexually taken advantage of.
The reasons why children might leave their homes are endless.
The reasons for their disappearance is are they running from something? Are they running to something? Are they coerced?
Here in West Texas, the goal may be to get away.
Kids typically run from here to other areas rather than run from other areas to here.
According to OPD records, there were 237 runaways reported last year in the city.
It is sometimes the same kids, sometimes it is other kids, but it does happen very, very often.
12% of those children had run away before. This year, from January until the end of April, there have been 77 reported runaway cases.
We get, I want to say, conservatively about 4 to 5 a week. Usually what happens is that they run away, they come back a few days later. Parents do call in and file runaway report.
Detective Sotelo says the cases she responds to are normally about the child's rebellious nature.
Drugs, alcohol, or they just don't want to live under the parents' rules, or they don't want to be at home, or they don't want to listen, or they just don't want to be there. They want to go with their friends. That's usually typically how it all is. They just don't want to go by rules. And the parents set up, and unfortunately we all have to live by those rules.
Mark McQueen with Centers for Children and Families says psychologically it's typical for kids to look for independence.
A growing sense of wanting to make my own decisions, which again is, I would be concerned if a junior high child was not wanting to do that, if they were not hitting those developmental milestones, so to speak. So I think that's the primary thing happening, is this sense of I can make my own decisions, I can think for myself, that need for autonomy that kids at that age have and are trying to develop, but need parental and adults in their lives to help them shape that properly.
But it's critical to remember that it's not always that kids want to have grown-up rights.
That is partially true. Those cases do exist, but I do think the reasons they run away tend to be a little more complex than that.
The National Runaway Safe Line helps children who are thinking about running away or who have run away. Not all kids who run away say why they want to leave, but the data shows a few main reasons.
43% indicated family dynamics. Another 18% identified abuse and neglect. 10% mental health issues, and 9% peer and social issues.
As those statistics show, sometimes it's unsafe to be at home.
There are a number of cases where kids are leaving their home because of abuse and neglect, and they see that as their only way to safety or their only way out. And they don't feel like they have anyone that they can safely let know what's going on in the home.
If situations like that happen, like in our unit, we deal with family violence and stuff like that. CPS, Crisis Center, Harmony Home, we all work together. And if there's something that the kid has to be removed, then CPS will take care of that. If there's a concern, especially with family violence and stuff like that with the child, absolutely.
Sometimes they feel like they have nowhere to turn.
In many cases, these youth are being kicked out, or it's the absolute last ditch effort, right? This is the last thing that most youth want. This is a last resort. And you just, I think there are a lot of thoughts of that people do this because it's rebellion, and this is just trying to do something to seek attention, and it's just not what we see.
Sometimes it's about internal struggle. Jalen Hogan, the executive director of High Sky Children's Ranch, fostered a teen who ran away.
She lived with me and we had a great relationship, but she also had a mother that was in the picture, and her mother was very involved as well. And although it seemed like a really good situation, it put her kind of at odds with herself and knowing kind of where she belonged and what she wanted. And so she made some bad choices and was in trouble a little bit, and so she decided to run away.
Hogan says she searched everywhere she could think of.
You know, it really was a scary, scary time for me and for her mother as well, because her mother didn't know where she was either, her family, because we didn't know what happened to her.
Hogan says her mind went to bad scenarios because she's seen and heard of the dangers runaways face.
I knew also that you need to act quickly when there's a runaway, because the more time that goes by, the harder it is kind of to find them, and the more risk they can find themselves in.
The Texas Center for the Missing says runaways do face certain risks, but there's another layer for those who have been in a state's care.
Unfortunately, children who are in care of either foster families or group homes are particularly at risk for running away and endangering themselves. They're in a horrible situation, not of their making, typically.
2 months later, Hogan's foster child was found with a cousin in North Texas.
It certainly gave me another level of compassion, not just for the children, of course, but also for the parents that care for the children.
A fear that comes to mind is that runaway children could be trafficked. It's a real possibility.
Some of them could be promised to a better life and stuff like that, and they go with that because they won't want to escape the life that they have then now. And there's drugs, alcohol. There's a lot of stuff that they can, put themselves at risk because they don't know how bad the world is out there. And they do tend to, a lot of them do tend to get through human trafficking sometimes as well. That's a big problem all over the United States.
NRS numbers show the common age that children run away is 15 to 17. According to Detective Sotelo, kids typically start running away around middle school. Both the detective and McQueen agree that it's not typical in their experience to see many elementary school kids run away from home. But the trend of young children leaving is going up.
Hear these stories about the stresses that people feel and testing at earlier ages and things. I think you can see the stresses of the world hitting youth younger and younger, to the point that in 2020 we had just shy of 600 youth under age 12 reach out to us.
When children leave their homes, they make easy targets for predators or other people who want to take advantage of them.
There's very few people out there who are going to put you up and take good care of you, and they're often exposed to traumatic experiences. The cost of getting food, shelter, people don't typically just give those away to kids in that situation, so they're often exposed to some traumatic experiences.
Family abductions make up nearly 5% of NCMEC's missing children's cases.
The reasons those children go missing, they're abducted by their own family member, by their own parent, by their own mother or their own father, for whatever reason is taking place inside the entire home. The one parent decided, I'm going to take this child.
Even though it's a person they know, that abduction can cause trauma that can impact their mental health.
Depression, anxiety, PTSD. But there's an extra layer that those children have to work through when it comes from a family member.
McQueen says children who have gone through family abductions learn that trusted relationships are not safe.
But some long-term work that needs to happen with reestablishing trust in future relationships, that tendency to be ultra-guarded and the challenge they have after the abduction, after they're returned, of forming meaningful relationships from that point forward.
Even if the child is fed, given shelter, and all their basic needs are met, it can be tough for the child to grasp what's happening.
And the story that they will tell the child, the abductor will tell the child, is often a little bit twisted and often paints the abductor in a very, very clean and in a wronged light, and will often villainize the people that they are taken away from. So it leads to a great sense of confusion.
In some cases, the child could be in serious danger.
Most people, when they say, well, it's a parent, that has the child, how bad can it be? Well, it can be really bad. I mean, like just 2 of our Amber Alerts, the father killed the mother and took the child. And so that child, who's to say that child might not be a pawn if the person was surrounded by police?
Non-family abductions are rare among missing children's cases, but experts say it's ingrained in our minds to look out for strangers.
Obviously, the stranger abductions are super scary, where the child is most at risk of harm or death. And most people, I think, know to respond quickly and urgently to those cases.
Many students are taught both in school and at home to be wary of adults we don't know.
Many of the situations are what we were raised on as children. Would you like to pet my dog? Would you like some ice cream? I mean, everything that we were raised on in knowing what to avoid as children, they're still very much used today, unfortunately. And that's where it comes down to, the parents having those conversations.
The Texas Center for the Missing says children are most vulnerable to be abducted by somebody driving by in a car as students are on their way to and from school. But when families get ready for a new school year, they should figure out who will pick them up and what to do if somebody claims their parents said to get them.
If you're going to pick up your child at a specific location, make sure you have a plan. Make sure they're aware of the plan. All those details, as some would see, is maybe just not important, they are.
With kids online more often and with many learning virtually, there are added risks.
In this day and age, a fair amount of families across the United States are have their children in online school. And all this time we've been telling parents, watch what your children do online, be aware of their online environment. And now we're in an environment where they have to be online many hours throughout the day.
Experts say it's good to know what websites and social media accounts your child uses for schoolwork and for fun.
Most children are not snatched off the street. Most children are lured online or run away to meet somebody they've met online. And so parents don't really realize what kids are doing online.
Just under 1% of NCMEC cases are listed as other.
Basically, where no one knows what happened to the child. The child's just not where they're supposed to be. And there's not a lot of evidence pointing to an abduction or a runaway disappearance or anything like that. And those we just don't know. We don't know where the child went or how the child went missing.
Sometimes these kids are lost. Sometimes they're injured. Or maybe there's no explanation for why they're gone. Maybe they were abducted, but nobody saw it happen. Or maybe they've wandered because of a medical reason like autism elopement. But experts say in any of these cases, a prevention plan is key.
Traffickers, we can arrest people that use children to sell drugs, people that exploit kids, but you're never going to get all of them. The best bet really is these prevention education programs.
Experts say to teach children about safety from a young age and teach them based on how they can best understand.
Everything starts with education and communication between, right in the home life, between the parent and the child, letting the child know in a safe and respectable way how to be safe.
Keep communication open. Make sure your children are comfortable talking to you about serious issues and monitor what they do online.
Children are way more technologically savvy than parents. And so that's the internet safety programs that we do for children and parents are probably some of the most preventative work that can be done in this field.
Sometimes parents don't know what their kids are seeing or hearing with all that's on the internet, which makes it harder to know what they even need to talk to kids about.
It's our main job is to get our children safely to adulthood. And so we have to devote a lot of attention to that and make sure we know who they're seeing, what they're saying, where they're going online, all those things.
While parents are the ones who hold responsibility, communication and understanding need to be a two-way road. As Jalen Hogan explains, her own foster daughter running away from home taught her a valuable lesson.
I think it also reminded me, sometimes we get forgetful of really paying attention to kids and their hearts and their voices.
The NRS encourages children who are considering running away to call their hotline.
In 2020, 71% of the people who reached out to us were actually still at home. So this highlights the importance of prevention.
Parents and those who aren't parents can do their part for the community too.
Sharing missing persons posters, being interested in those cases can actually make a big difference. When every parent that's in this situation of having a missing child would virtually do anything they could to rewind the clock. And so let's do the prevention part first and not have to do the, close the barn door after the horse has already escaped.
There are resources at the national, state, and local level. The NRS says that family dynamics are a large reason why children run from home. In some cases, the Stay Together program at High Sky Children's Ranch may help sort out the issues that make a child feel isolated and not want to be home.
Stay Together is our program that works with children and families in their own homes. And the goal of that program is to help teach families the skills they need to be a healthy family system, to be able to communicate and work together to help parents raise children that have good values and character and grow up to be good members of society, to help those families to bridge whatever gap that they perceive that's keeping their family from being as functional as they would like it to be.
For children who don't feel comfortable reaching out to organizations or law enforcement, look at the people you see every day.
You might have other resources locally, friends you trust, mentors, teachers, right? These are really important. And we want you to find people you trust in to help you get through challenging times safely and thinking through all of the implications of what your next steps might be.
And parents, if you suspect your child has run away, you don't have to wait to file a report.
As soon as you think that person or that runaway is not, within, you have every right to call them for us to do a report and everything.
Detective Sotelo says that reports get put into a national database that can help law enforcement search for the child by their name and birthday. If your child is missing, there are steps you can take to be proactive.
Absolutely call law enforcement first, and then they can call us. Even anywhere in the country, anywhere in the state, people can call us and we will help them work that situation, find out who to access resources from in their region. We can help people do flyers and social media posts.
It's nerve-wracking to think your child may have willingly left, been forcefully taken, or to not know what happened.
Actually work with families when they have a loved one missing. We walk them through, how to contact law enforcement, to file a report, if search and rescue services are needed, how to access those services, and then forbid a case stays open for a long time. We actually support the families throughout that process, and until their loved one is located, we stay right there with them.
But the goal is for your child to be safe, happy, and healthy.
If there's any doubt, you can call us at the National Center for Missing Exploited Children at our 1-800-THE-LOST number.
Help is there for people who want it.
We all need help along life journey, and there is nothing wrong with asking someone, hey, will you come alongside us and help us in this? Because we all need that.